I think it's momentum. I think it's momentum and play timing, brother, which is boring, but I feel like every time an issue happens where we're not always getting punished for it, but the thing encompassing all of these defensive plays I've showed is just kind of this goal line momentum, challenge momentum. That's kind of the root. And I think we keep it pretty simple. Talk about a couple solutions. I'll show some examples too. Nothing fancy, I promise. So we'll use this play as an example, right? So we're going to rotate back. Don't want to change the rotation. Well, we might a little bit, but don't want to change like the overall game sense, which is you are playing a back post to follow up, support your teammate. If he wins, if he misses, you are in a good position. We don't want to change that. But what I do want to change is how do we maintain momentum while still keeping the same game sense? And option one is one of the simplest things in the world. We're going to get started with our first review of the day, which will be Diamond 3. Diamond 3. Diamond 3. Wow, coming out with a fake kickoff. I already like where your speed is for Diamond. I know you're not usually Diamond 3, but your speed looks good already. Pace of the lobby. We'll take that. I like our kind of pace control, slow play. Just a comment. It's working out. Like that play, like that. This player double jumped. Hence why I say it's working out. Like, I feel like typically players don't just gap the ball like that. That was kind of funny. It works out, but I like our thought process regarding the slow play, and then we do it again right here. That was a solid fake. Cut, fake. I like that. So speed looks good. What looks better to me is kind of this ability to slow down. Not full send it the entire time. We're even like slowing down right there for ball control. So those are my initial thoughts. Little bit of a risky fake challenge, ball side rotation, but it works out. That seems to be the case with a couple plays. It just happens to work out. Honestly, like I think we got a little bit of everything here. Little uncomfortable in the shadow. I was a little uncomfortable too. So if we had an uncomfortable ball side rotation in the offensive corner. We're a little bit uncomfortable on defense, but it's not just the corner or the goal line. I liked our cuts. Looking for a demo. So it's like if there is an area to target there, here, and here, but I like our cuts, and I feel like we do well up the field, back down the field to here, but then once we get not really into a defensive rotation, but onto defense, there's not really rotations in twos. Again, a little awkward, so I want to see what's going on with it. I don't know how I feel about first replay back targeting defense from a structural standpoint, but demos and cuts on the way back are good. Is it defensive momentum? Flowiness of movement? I don't want to say rotation. Like this, I'll just watch this one more time just so you could see it. Like this is what I'm trying to target. The start, stop, awkward, not transitioning, kind of trying to find a place to be. Where do I go? What do I read? That's where my brain's at. And that was good. We get here, we're chilling. Let me watch this one more time. Not the defensive stuff, but like, how did we get into this defensive situation? Could have played backboard right now. Could have just sent it. All right, how are we going to get into this? Yeah, that was solid. I still want to tackle defense, though. I think it's momentum. I think it's momentum and play timing, brother. Which is boring, but I feel like every time an issue happens where we're not always getting punished for it, but the thing encompassing all of these defensive plays I've showed is just kind of this goal line momentum, challenge momentum. That's kind of the root. And I think we keep it pretty simple. Talk about a couple solutions. I'll show some examples too. Nothing fancy, I promise. So we'll use this play as an example, right? So we're going to rotate back. Don't want to change a rotation. Well, we might a little bit, but don't want to change like the overall game sense, which is you are playing a back post to follow up, support your teammate. If he wins, if he misses, you are in a good position. We don't want to change that. But what I do want to change is how do we maintain momentum while still keeping the same game sense? And option one is one of the simplest things in the world. You could start creeping up front post like you did. You see that this play over here gets a little choppy, right? Like the play timing messed up, and you just drive in a little circle. You could do it in the goal. You could do it out here. If you're thinking, oh, maybe he gets a quick beat and you want to anticipate this, and if it doesn't happen, then you loop back. Okay, like there's no right way to drive in a circle. It comes down to your play timing, but I'll show your POV just so you could kind of picture yourself doing it. Rotate back. We don't want to change this. We don't want to change this. And then right now, this is where the chop happens, and you just drive in a circle, whatever way you want to. Gave you two options. The other thing outside of driving in a circle is play a front post backboard, which some players may see that as, why would you play a front post backboard? That's so risky. Well, front post backboard is a much better position to be in than the front post. The game sense being, if this player loses a 50, it goes up the wall, you get it. If this ball like skirts out to the midfield, you dive it off the backboard. And if this ball somehow goes this way and someone takes a shot, you're a little bit more leveraged to save that shot with a dive down because you have that height advantage, a little bit of momentum. It is difficult, but all of those options seem awkward, but it's better than any of those options happening and sitting at the front post when you have to drive up here that extra leg of distance, or maybe you have to do a quick reaction jump up save or challenge into the midfield, right? So the backboard kind of leverages that. And I honestly, for you, Mr. Mad, based on what I'm seeing in game with the air dribbles, with your car control, flip control, consider the front post backboard as the position to play. Your mechanics look good enough as to why I recommended it. Give me another diamond player, give me someone lower ranked, I probably wouldn't have recommended that. Now, the third option, we had circling, we had front post backboard, is something, I mean, there's even 4 options. But third option, I call it widening rotations. And again, this may seem risky, and it is. Every option I've covered outside of the circle has a little bit of risk attached to it, but even circling is risky if you drive in a circle and you mistime the circle and then you're backwards to save the ball. Everything has risk, but it's risky to sit in a position without momentum. And what you do is, remember, keep the same decision, back post, support a teammate, etc., and you widen that rotation. And it doesn't always have to be to corner boost. You could widen this rotation to this pad rotation. And it's very, very similar to circling because, right, you circle what I showed before where you're circling to keep that momentum on the goal line. This is like pretty much circling, right? You're just looping, extending. I call it widening rotations. It could be to corner. It could be on this pad line, but it's all to help with play timing. And it depends on your brain, right? Like if you're reading the situation and you have these options and you just pick one, right? You do what feels right. But just know there's tons of ways to solve a problem in this game. Now, picture widening this rotation right here. Right? Like, see how I always call it, you know, we have widening rotations. I call it shortening or tightening rotations. That was very, very tight. Conservative. And you just do the same thing, and maybe you do here. Risk level 1, or you do the same thing here, risk level 2. Now, the fourth option kind of cuts out all of that, and it's midfield coverage. And you could apply circling, you can apply front post backboard, you could apply widening rotations, but it's all about midfield coverage. And it's taking out the goal line out of the equation. Instead of rotating here, you just rotate here. And if the play timing is off, you circle. If you want to go front post backboard, you go. If you want to widen that rotation, you go, or a little bit shorter, or to your initial position. But what you're doing is you're playing the midfield. And again, you may be like, that's risky. What if he loses it? Well, you just get it, right? So like when you're in the midfield, that gives you that option for back post, option for front post, option if that was a hard win to already be in a position to support aggressively, option to take corner if you want to go super wide. The midfield itself gives you more options. That's where I'd leave it. That's where I'd leave like this whole momentum thing. And let's just go back in time super quick to look at that previous play that was awkward, right? Like try to picture yourself using one of those options right here. You push for demo. Good. Little bit of baby midfield coverage. We get here. You can play a front post backboard, or you could play a backboard. I would call this a front post backboard because they're right there. And you're thinking, why would I play backboard? Right? You're reading it perfectly. And if that pinches, you could save it. But it's just the anticipation to play backboard. It's one of those things that you don't know until you start doing it, where like you could be on backboard right here, on backboard right now. Like you already started it. And you're right here. And then as that play develops, then you drive down. It's just not sticking on the goal line as long as you did. So front post backboard is an option. You could play this. Bam. And instead of rotating back to the goal line, this could be midfield coverage to retake that back post and then maybe apply a circling technique or an extension widening technique. But instead of rotating on this ball side, which then chops up the play, kills momentum, this gets awkward, right? You would have kind of just taken yourself out of that situation and played back post. And that's where I'd leave this. I really think altogether you're playing good. Only issues were on defense. Root of the problem, momentum. What I covered with you, super easy. Super easy. Fundamental. I talk about momentum a lot here, but the theory behind momentum is Rocket League is a boost game. It's how you fly. That's how you do mechanics, etc. The reason rotations are a thing are because of boost pads. So because Rocket League is so boost driven, literally boost driven, it's really important to understand how to keep momentum. But momentum affects your ability to play the ball, whether it's a save, a transition, mechanics. I could rant a lot about momentum, but it's a root problem for a lot of awkwardness. And I'll leave it there. I'm glad you submitted.